He never planned to start his life again. After his first wife passed away, the house felt too quiet even when his daughter was laughing. Every sound echoed. Every corner reminded him of what he had lost. He worked long hours during the day and came home tired at night, doing his best to be both mother and father. Some days he managed well. Other days he barely held himself together. But no matter how hard things got, his daughter was the reason he kept moving forward. She was still young. Too young to fully understand why her mother never came back. She would sometimes ask simple questions that had no easy answers. He learned how to stay calm, how to explain things without breaking down. At night, after she fell asleep, he would sit alone in the living room, staring at old photos, wondering if he was doing enough. He promised himself that as long as he was alive, she would never feel unloved or unsafe. For a long time, he refused to think about remarriage. Friends suggested it gently at first, then more openly. They said he deserved happiness. They said his daughter needed a woman's care in her life. He always nodded and changed the subject. In his heart, he believed no one could replace the woman he lost, and he feared bringing the wrong person into his daughter's world. Years passed. Life slowly found a rhythm. School mornings were rushed, evenings were quieter, and weekends were spent doing small things together. Grocery shopping, homework, simple meals, and long walks became their routine. People admired him for staying strong, but they did not see the nights when he lay awake worrying about the future. Then, someone new entered his life. It did not happen suddenly. They met through ordinary circumstances, the kind that never feel important at first. She was polite, well-spoken, and patient. She listened when he talked, especially when he spoke about his daughter. She said the right things. She never pushed. When she met his daughter, she smiled warmly and brought small gifts. Nothing excessive. Just enough to appear thoughtful. At first, he kept his distance. He watched closely. He noticed how she spoke to his child, how she reacted when plans changed, how she handled stress. Everything seemed normal. She praised him for being a devoted father. She told others how lucky his daughter was to have him. Slowly, his guard began to lower. His daughter seemed comfortable around her too. She was quiet by nature, so he took her silence as acceptance. He believed children sensed danger better than adults. If his daughter did not complain, he assumed all was well. After many months, the idea of marriage came up. He hesitated. The fear returned. He thought about his promise to protect his child above all else. He asked himself hard questions. He prayed for guidance. In the end, loneliness and hope worked together. He convinced himself that a stable home with 2 adults was better than one tired parent. Trying to do everything alone, they married in a simple ceremony. Nothing fancy. Just close friends and family. People smiled and congratulated him. They said it was time to move on. They said his daughter now had a complete family again. He wanted to believe that. In the beginning, life felt easier. There was help around the house. Meals were shared at the table. Responsibilities were divided. He finally felt he could breathe. He focused more on work, trusting that things at home were under control. His new wife appeared responsible and caring in front of others. She spoke kindly, kept the house neat, and showed interest in the child's school life still. Small things began to change. He noticed his daughter growing quieter. Not sad, just reserved. When he asked how her day was, she gave short answers. He blamed school pressure or growing up. Children change, he told himself. He did not want to read too much into it. He did not want to imagine problems where none existed. There were moments that made him uncomfortable, but he ignored them. A sharp tone here. An impatient look there. Nothing serious. Nothing worth questioning a marriage over. He told himself that adjusting to a new family took time. He believed love required patience. One evening, his daughter complained of feeling unwell. At first, it seemed minor. A fever, weakness. He stayed up with her through the night, worried but hopeful. By morning, her condition worsened. He rushed her to the hospital, fear gripping his chest with every step. Doctors decided she needed to be admitted for observation. Hearing those words made his heart sink. Hospitals reminded him of the past, of loss and helplessness. He held his daughter's hand tightly, promising her everything would be fine. Even though his own hands were shaking, his wife offered to help. She said she would stay with the child while he handled paperwork and phone calls. She told him not to worry, that she would take care of everything. He looked at her and saw someone stepping up during a crisis. Gratitude filled him. He believed this was proof that he had made the right decision. The first day passed slowly. Machines beeped softly. Nurses came and went. His daughter slept most of the time. He sat beside her bed, watching her chest rise and fall. Every breath felt like a blessing. His wife remained nearby, speaking calmly to staff, appearing supportive. When night came, exhaustion caught up with him. He had not slept properly in days. His wife suggested he go home to shower and rest for a few hours. She insisted she would stay. He hesitated. Leaving his child felt wrong, but she convinced him, reminding him he needed strength too. He kissed his daughter on the forehead and promised he would be back soon. She looked at him with tired eyes and nodded. He did not notice the slight hesitation in her expression. He did not notice the way her fingers tightened around the blanket as he walked out of the hospital room. He believed his daughter was safe. He believed she was in good hands. He believed the woman he trusted would protect the child he loved more than his own life. That belief would soon be tested. In ways he could never have imagined, this was only the beginning. The days after the hospital admission felt longer than normal. Time moved slowly, measured by the sound of footsteps in the hallway and the quiet hum of machines. The father returned early the next morning, carrying fresh clothes and homemade food. He was tired, but relief washed over him the moment he saw his daughter still resting on the bed. She smiled weakly when she saw him. That smile alone made the sleepless night feel worth it. He sat beside her and asked how she was feeling. She said she was fine, though her voice sounded softer than usual. He brushed it off, thinking the medicine was making her sleepy. His wife stood nearby, scrolling on her phone, then spoke politely to the nurse when she entered. Everything looked normal on the surface. Still, something in the air felt different. The room felt colder, not because of the temperature, but because of a tension he could not explain. Over the next few days, he tried to balance everything. Work calls, hospital visits, paperwork, and endless waiting. He stayed as much as he could, but sometimes he had no choice but to step out. Each time, his wife assured him she would stay with the child. She reminded him that they were a team now. He wanted to believe that. Slowly, he began to notice changes in his daughter. She no longer asked for small things the way she used to. She did not ask for water, snacks, or help adjusting her pillow. When nurses came, she answered questions quickly and looked away. When he asked if something was wrong, she shook her head every time. At first, he blamed the illness. Hospitals can scare children, he thought. Pain can make them quiet. He told himself not to overthink, but there were moments that stayed with him. One afternoon, he returned earlier than expected and found his daughter staring at the wall. His wife was sitting beside the bed, her face stiff, her tone sharp as she spoke. The moment she noticed him, her expression changed instantly. She smiled and softened her voice, as if switching masks. His daughter looked relieved when she saw him. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," his wife replied quickly. "She just doesn't like taking her medicine." The explanation sounded reasonable, yet it did not fully settle his mind. His daughter said nothing. She only nodded that night, as he sat alone in the hospital cafeteria. He thought about all the small moments he had ignored. He remembered how his wife sometimes complained about the attention the child received, how she spoke about responsibility as if it were a weight, how she grew irritated when plans changed because of the child. He pushed those thoughts away. Doubt felt like betrayal. He had made a commitment. Questioning it felt wrong. The doctor said the child would need to stay longer. Tests were still ongoing. Hearing that made his chest tighten. Hospital stays meant expenses, time off work, and emotional strain. He saw the frustration flash across his wife's face before she hid it. She started spending more time alone with the child. She insisted the father should rest or go home. She said he looked exhausted. She told him she had everything under control. Each time, he hesitated, then agreed. One evening, his daughter asked him quietly if he could stay the night. "I'll stay tomorrow," he said gently. "Tonight, she's here with you." His daughter looked down and said nothing. That silence stayed with him long after he left. The next morning, he arrived earlier than usual. As he walked down the hallway, he heard raised voices coming from his daughter's room. His heart skipped. He slowed his steps. Inside, his wife was speaking firmly, almost angrily. His daughter lay still, eyes wide, gripping the blanket. The words were not loud enough to clearly hear, but the tone was enough. When his wife saw him, she stopped instantly. "Oh, you're early," she said, forcing a smile. He asked what was going on. She laughed lightly and said the child was being difficult again. She said children exaggerate pain to get attention. The words felt wrong. Too harsh, too careless. He looked at his daughter. Her eyes were filled with confusion and fear. She did not speak. Later that day, a nurse pulled him aside. Her voice was calm, but her expression was serious. She asked if everything was okay at home. She mentioned that the child seemed unusually anxious at times. He felt a wave of embarrassment. He assured the nurse everything was fine. As soon as the words left his mouth, he questioned them. That night, he barely slept. Memories replayed in his mind. Small scenes, small signs, all lining up in a way he did not like. He thought about his promise to protect his child. He thought about trust and how easily it can blind a person. The next day, he decided to stay longer. He told his wife he would handle everything. She seemed annoyed, though she tried to hide it. She complained about work she needed to do, about the hospital environment, about how draining everything was when she stepped out of the room. His daughter finally spoke. "Daddy," she whispered. That single word carried more weight than anything else. He leaned closer and asked what was wrong. She hesitated. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not cry. She looked toward the door, then back at him. "She gets mad when you're not here," the child said softly. His chest tightened. "Mad how?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "She says I'm causing trouble. She says I'm making you tired. She tells me to be quiet." Each sentence felt like a strike. He held her hand and told her she had done nothing wrong. He apologized again and again, though he did not fully understand everything yet. He promised he would not leave her alone again before he could ask more. His wife returned. The conversation stopped. That night, as he watched his daughter sleep, he realized something important. Trust should never be stronger than instinct. And his instinct was screaming. He did not know yet what he would see or hear in the coming days. But deep down, he knew one thing for sure. Something was very wrong, and he was done ignoring it. That night, he barely slept. His mind replayed his daughter's words over and over. Every detail, every hesitation, every glance she gave when she spoke of fear haunted him. He sat in the quiet hospital room, watching her sleep, feeling a protective rage he could barely control. He realized then that trust, once broken or questioned, was fragile. And right now, his trust was being tested in ways he had never imagined. The next morning, he decided to be in the room from the first light. He made himself coffee quietly and settled into the chair beside her bed. The machines beeped softly, and the dim morning light filtered through the curtains. For a moment, everything seemed normal. His daughter stirred, rubbed her eyes, and smiled faintly at him. Her small hand sought his, and he held it tightly. He kept glancing at the door, waiting for her mother to enter. When she did, she smiled at him, a practiced, calm smile that tried to cover something he could not yet identify. She approached the bed, speaking softly, but her eyes flicked toward him with something different, almost calculating. It made his stomach turn. Throughout the morning, he watched closely. He noticed the sharpness in her tone whenever the nurses asked questions, the subtle impatience when the child hesitated to answer. Nothing too loud, nothing overt, but it was there, beneath the surface, hidden behind polite words. He had learned that in small moments, true character reveals itself. He stepped out briefly to make a phone call, checking in with work. When he returned, something in the room felt wrong immediately. The atmosphere was heavier, tense. His daughter's eyes darted nervously. His wife's back was turned to him, her fingers adjusting the blanket around the child in a way that seemed almost too forceful. He froze. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, trying not to alarm anyone. His daughter hesitated before nodding. "I'm fine," she whispered. He looked at his wife. Her face was calm, too calm. She said, "She's just a little uncomfortable. Nothing to worry about." But he could see it. He could feel it. An instinct, the kind that never lies, screamed at him that something was wrong. He sat down beside his daughter, his hands holding hers. He whispered, "Tell me exactly what happened when I was gone." She looked down, biting her lip. A tear rolled slowly, unheeded by her mother. She yelled at me," the child said softly. "She said I was being difficult. She told me to be quiet. She made me feel like I wasn't supposed to be here." His heart tightened. He looked at his wife, who was still standing nearby, her expression neutral. He wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. He wanted to ignore the feeling growing stronger in his chest, the one that screamed danger. But he could not. He had promised to protect his child, and now he knew he needed to act. "Stay right here with me," he told his daughter. She nodded, relief washing over her small features. He turned to his wife. "We need to talk," he said quietly, but firmly. Her face changed, just slightly, but enough for him to notice. The calm smile dropped, replaced by a brief flash of something sharp. She followed him to the corner of the room. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice controlled but tense. He explained calmly what his daughter had told him, small signs he had noticed, the growing unease. He tried not to shout, tried to remain measured, but the anger bubbled beneath the surface. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied smoothly. "I've been helping. I've been caring for her." Her words were empty. He could see it. He could see the mask slipping. "I'm asking for the truth," he said. "Tell me exactly what happened when I wasn't here."
Oh.
There was a pause, a long one. He held his breath. His daughter's eyes were on them, watching silently, waiting. Finally she spoke. "I was frustrated," she admitted, her voice low. She wasn't listening. "I didn't want to make things worse." His heart sank. He wanted to ask more, but he restrained himself. He needed facts, actions, the truth, not excuses. Over the next few hours, he paid closer attention. He observed her every interaction, every small movement. The sharp words she said under her breath, the impatience that surfaced when the child tried to explain something simple, the subtle ways she tried to assert control, to dominate, to intimidate, all hidden behind a mask of care. He began keeping a mental record of everything. Every time she scolded the child too sharply, every time she dismissed the child's questions, every time she showed irritation when he returned or intervened by mid-afternoon. He had decided that he could no longer leave his daughter alone with her. He informed the nurse quietly that he would stay until further notice. His wife's expression flickered, just for a moment. Before she masked it with polite words and excuses about errands and work, he did not leave the room again that day. He realized something else. This was not a one-time incident. These were patterns. Patterns that had existed before, hidden behind smiles and polite words. Patterns that his daughter had suffered through silently. Too afraid to speak, he sat beside her, holding her hand, whispering reassuring words, promising her safety, and vowing he would not let anyone make her feel small or unsafe again. He wanted her to understand that she had done nothing wrong, that the fault was not hers, and that he was there to protect her, no matter what. The nurses noticed the tension too. They spoke to him discreetly, offering advice and support. One mentioned that children often reveal more about home life when under stress, even in small details. He listened carefully, realizing the truth was now being reinforced by people who had no reason to lie. When evening came, the father felt exhausted but determined. He knew that the coming days would be difficult. The wife would try to maintain her control, to manipulate, to hide her true intentions. But he had seen enough. He had witnessed the truth, and he would not allow it to continue. That night, he sat in a chair beside the bed, watching his daughter sleep. He held her hand and whispered promises to keep her safe. He thought about every day since his first wife passed away, about every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every hope that he could provide a stable, loving life for his child. Now, he understood the challenge ahead. Trust could be earned and broken, and he had been blind for too long. But he would not be blind anymore. He would not ignore the signs. He would act, protect, and fight for his daughter, no matter the consequences. For the first time since the hospital admission, he felt clarity. The fear was still there, but it was now mixed with resolve. He would not allow anyone to hurt his child again. Not silently, not behind smiles, not in moments when he was not watching. This was the turning point. The moment when the illusion shattered, when reality revealed itself in stark, undeniable truth. He understood that the road ahead would be hard, emotional, and exhausting. But he also knew that his daughter's safety and well-being were worth every challenge. And in that quiet hospital room, under the soft glow of the evening lights, he made a silent vow. No one would ever make his child feel small or frightened in her own home again. The following morning, he woke with a determination he had not felt before. The events of the previous night replayed in his mind, and he realized he could not wait any longer. He needed answers. He needed the truth. His daughter's safety depended on it. He prepared himself for a day of careful observation. When he arrived at the hospital, he settled into the chair beside her bed. His daughter's eyes lit up when she saw him. For the first time in days, she seemed a little more at ease. She squeezed his hand tightly, a silent plea for protection, for someone to finally hear her. Her mother arrived shortly afterward, carrying the same polite, controlled smile. She greeted him warmly and spoke softly to the child. But he noticed the subtle sharpness beneath her calm demeanor. The words were always polite in tone, but they carried an edge he could not ignore. He watched every gesture, every facial expression, every movement. Throughout the morning, he began to gently ask questions. He asked his daughter how she had felt during the night, how the medicine was making her feel, and whether she had been comfortable. Each time, his daughter hesitated, careful not to speak too loudly. Her fear was clear, though she tried to hide it. The father realized that she had been holding back for a long time, trying to protect herself from the person who was supposed to care for her. He decided it was time to confront the situation more directly. He asked the nurses if they had noticed anything unusual during their visits. They spoke carefully, some seeming hesitant, others cautious. One mentioned that the child seemed unusually quiet when her mother was alone with her, as she sometimes flinched when spoken to sharply. Another said that small signs of fear could sometimes indicate issues at home, though it was hard to be certain. Each observation confirmed what he had been suspecting, though he had needed their input to feel certain. When his wife stepped out briefly, he turned to his daughter. He asked her to tell him everything she had been too scared to say before. At first she struggled, her words coming in hesitant whispers. But when he encouraged her gently, telling her it was safe to speak and that he would protect her, the story began to unfold. "She yells at me when you're not here," the child said, her voice trembling slightly. "She says I am a troublemaker. She says I am making you tired. She tells me to stay quiet and not bother anyone. She sometimes locks the door when I need help." The father felt a rush of anger, but he kept his voice steady, wanting to reassure his daughter. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "You are not a troublemaker. You have done nothing to deserve this. I am here now, and no one will ever make you feel scared again." The child nodded, relief and exhaustion in her eyes. She finally felt heard. For years, she had been too afraid to speak up. Now, her father was listening, and that gave her a small sense of safety. He knew that he could not wait any longer. He needed to speak directly with his wife. He asked her to sit down in the room, and when she did, he spoke calmly but firmly. "We need to talk about what just happened," he said. "I want the truth. No excuses, no hiding behind polite words. I want to understand exactly how you have been treating our child." At first she denied everything, speaking in measured tones. "I've been doing my best," she said. "I care about her. I have been helping. I have not done anything wrong, he remained calm. I am asking for the truth. She has been scared. She has been hurt. I need to know why. There was a long pause. Her eyes shifted, and for a moment, the mask dropped. The calm demeanor slipped, revealing a flash of frustration and impatience. She doesn't listen, she admitted. She tests my patience. I get tired of explaining things over and over. I wanted her to be quiet, to behave, to not cause problems. Words were carefully chosen, but the intent behind them was clear. She had been using fear and control to manage the child, to assert power, and to hide her own irritation. It had been deliberate, masked behind the appearance of care. The father felt a mixture of anger, disappointment, and sorrow. Anger at the betrayal, disappointment at the manipulation, and sorrow for the child who had suffered in silence. He looked at his daughter, who watched silently. A mixture of relief and continued fear in her eyes. He addressed his wife firmly. This is not acceptable. You will not intimidate, frighten, or control our child. She is not responsible for your frustration or impatience. If you cannot care for her properly, then I will handle it myself. There was no reply. She looked away, her expression tight, her face pale. He realized that she had counted on his continued trust, on his reluctance to see the truth. Now, confronted directly, she had no choice but to step back, if only temporarily. Over the next few hours, he stayed beside his daughter, ensuring she felt safe. He watched his wife's reactions carefully. She tried to maintain calm, but the control she had exerted before was gone, replaced by subtle anger and avoidance. She realized that he had seen through the facade. He also spoke to the nurses privately, sharing concerns and asking for advice on ensuring the child's safety. They listened and offered guidance, emphasizing the importance of consistent adult support, careful observation, and emotional reassurance for the child. They confirmed that sudden changes in a caregiver's behavior can cause significant distress for children, reinforcing the importance of his vigilance that afternoon. He took careful notes of everything, documenting interactions and behaviors. Knowing that he needed to be prepared for any future decisions regarding the child's safety, he realized that protecting a child sometimes required not just love, but careful planning, observation, and action. By evening, he felt a mix of exhaustion and clarity. He understood the situation fully now. His wife's behavior had been manipulative, harmful, and disguised as care. His daughter had suffered silently, afraid to speak up. He could no longer rely on appearances or polite words. He had to trust his instincts and his own eyes. He sat beside his daughter as she rested, holding her hand and whispering reassurances. "You are safe now," he said gently. "I will protect you. No one will ever make you feel scared in your own home again." For the first time in days, he allowed himself to feel some hope. The truth was out, and although the coming days would be challenging, he had taken the first step toward ensuring safety, understanding, and emotional healing. The difficult path of addressing the situation had begun, but he was determined to see it through for the sake of his child. That night, as the lights dimmed in the hospital room and the machines continued their quiet beeping, he held his daughter close. He whispered again, promising protection and love, knowing that the coming days would require courage, vigilance, and unwavering commitment. But he was ready. The truth had been revealed, and now action was necessary to secure the safety and well-being of the one person he cherished above all else. The next morning, he arrived at the hospital determined to ensure that his daughter's safety came first. After the confrontation the previous day, the atmosphere had shifted. His wife's polite facade had cracked, revealing the truth he had long suspected. He could not ignore it any longer. He had to act, and he had to act decisively. He spoke to the nurses quietly, explaining that he would remain with the child at all times. They understood and supported him, giving advice on maintaining the child's comfort and safety. They assured him that by being present and attentive, he was helping the child recover emotionally as well as physically. Throughout the day, he stayed close to her. He held her hand, offered comforting words, and encouraged her to share any fears or worries. She slowly began to open up, telling him about past incidents, small moments of intimidation, and times she had felt unsafe. Each story, though small in description, weighed heavily on him. He realized the depth of what his daughter had endured silently and the importance of validating her feelings. He focused on creating a safe and calm environment. He asked the hospital staff for advice on routines that could reassure the child. From gentle words to small comforts, like favorite blankets or drawings. The child's anxiety slowly eased in his presence. He felt a cautious sense of relief seeing her smile faintly again at the same time. He knew he had to address the situation with his wife. He spoke firmly, making clear boundaries about her interactions with the child. She reacted with resistance, but he remained calm and unwavering, emphasizing that the child's well-being was non-negotiable. He explained that if she could not act in the child's best interest, she would not be allowed to remain in a caregiving role. The following days were a careful balance of observation and reassurance. He documented every interaction and behavior to ensure clarity and to protect his child from any further harm. He noticed subtle signs of manipulation from his wife, but he did not allow himself to be distracted. His attention was fully on his daughter. The child began to regain confidence slowly. She smiled, asked questions, and interacted with the nurses more freely. She clung less anxiously to him, a small but significant sign of progress. He encouraged her independence in small steps while remaining a constant source of support. Each improvement, no matter how minor, became a victory worth celebrating. He also took time to reflect on his own mistakes. He realized that his trust had been too easily given, that he had overlooked small warning signs, and that he had not listened closely enough to his daughter's subtle cues. He vowed to do better, to remain vigilant, and to always prioritize her emotional and physical safety. When it came time to leave the hospital, he prepared carefully. He made sure the child had a clear understanding that she was safe and that he would always be there. He explained to her in simple words that she could trust him, and that she did not need to fear anyone who had made her uncomfortable. He reassured her that she was loved and that he would protect her. He then addressed the question of the future with his wife. He made it clear that her role in their lives would be carefully controlled. Her actions had consequences and he would not risk his daughter's safety again. It was a difficult conversation, but one necessary to prevent further harm and to create a secure environment for the child. Over the next weeks, life slowly began to return to a new normal. They maintained routines, revisited favorite activities, and rebuilt trust between father and daughter. He encouraged her to express her feelings freely, validated her experiences, and worked closely with hospital staff to monitor her recovery. Each day brought small improvements. Each smile, a testament to resilience and love. He also reached out to supportive friends and family, sharing enough to create a network of care around them. He learned that while he had been strong, he did not have to face challenges alone. Accepting help strengthened both his resolve and his daughter's sense of security. Gradually, the child's laughter returned. It was softer at first, tentative, but genuine. She spoke more freely about school, friends, and her favorite hobbies. He listened, encouraged, and celebrated each step, knowing that healing from emotional harm required patience and consistency. Through this experience, he realized that protecting a child is an ongoing effort, requiring attention, vigilance, and emotional presence. Trust is precious, and once broken, it must be rebuilt with care and commitment. He learned to trust his instincts, to observe closely, and to never ignore his child's subtle signals. In time, they began to reclaim a sense of security and happiness. The father and daughter bond grew stronger, deepened by the trials they had faced together. They spent more time together, sharing stories, creating memories, and cherishing the simple moments that life offered. He looked back on the past with clarity, understanding both the mistakes and the lessons. He had underestimated the signs, overlooked subtle warnings, and trusted blindly. But he had acted when it mattered most, and in doing so, he had safeguarded his child's future. Their journey forward was built on love, vigilance, and the unwavering promise that the child would always feel safe, valued, and protected. Each day was a step toward healing, toward rebuilding trust, and toward embracing life with courage and hope. He knew that challenges might still arise, but he also knew that together they could face them. The bond they shared, tested by hardship and strengthened by love, would guide them through the days ahead. And in that bond he found a sense of peace and purpose, knowing that he had kept his promise to always protect, nurture, and love his child above all else. Even after returning home from the hospital, life was not immediately easy. The father knew that healing was not just physical but emotional. Every corner of the house carried memories of difficult days, and he wanted to transform it into a place of safety, trust, and happiness for his daughter. He focused on rebuilding their daily routine, creating a predictable and comforting schedule. Breakfasts together, walks in the park, homework time, and bedtime rituals became central. He made sure the child felt secure in every moment, reminding her gently that she could always speak freely, ask for help, or share her feelings without fear. At first, she was cautious. Small things could trigger anxiety, a reminder of past tension. But he was patient, never rushing her, never forcing interactions. He encouraged small victories, a smile shared, a story told, a question asked. Each of these moments strengthened her confidence and reassured her she was safe. He also spent time reflecting on his own experiences. He had learned how easily trust could be given and how fragile it could become. He realized the importance of observing, questioning, and listening carefully to subtle cues, especially from children. He promised himself to be more vigilant, to always notice small changes in behavior, and to never ignore signs of fear or discomfort. Neighbors and friends noticed the change as well. The home became warmer, more open, and more lively. His daughter began inviting friends over, enjoying small celebrations and shared activities. He welcomed these moments, aware that social interactions were important for her emotional recovery. He encouraged her, guiding her gently, and celebrating her courage in rebuilding trust and friendships. He also sought professional guidance. A child's counselor helped them navigate lingering emotional wounds. The sessions were gentle and supportive, allowing his daughter to express feelings she had long suppressed. Through these discussions, she learned strategies to cope with fear and stress, while he learned ways to reinforce her confidence and maintain a secure environment. The father realized that healing was gradual. There were setback days when the child seemed withdrawn or hesitant, but he stayed patient, offering reassurance and understanding. He learned to listen deeply, noticing not only words but expressions, body language, subtle signals that revealed her inner state. Through constant attention and care, she began to flourish as weeks turned into months. They developed stronger bonds than ever before. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments that deepened their connection. He encouraged her curiosity and independence, gently guiding her while always ensuring she felt supported and safe. Each success, no matter how small, was a step forward. He also focused on strengthening his own emotional resilience. He spent quiet moments reflecting, journaling, and seeking advice from trusted friends. He knew that caring for his daughter fully required that he remain strong, patient, and emotionally present. He learned to manage stress, to recognize his own emotions, and to prevent them from affecting the child's sense of security. Life gradually found a rhythm. School, play, and simple family routines formed the backbone of their days. He made sure the child had a voice in decisions, whether it was what to eat for dinner or which activities to participate in. She began to trust her instincts and express her preferences without fear, knowing that her father respected and supported her choices. The father also addressed lingering concerns about his former wife. He took steps to ensure no further influence could disrupt their lives. He consulted legal and professional advice, creating boundaries that would protect the child's safety while maintaining fairness. He understood that emotional security required not only immediate care but also structured safeguards. Through these experiences, the father and daughter developed resilience and confidence. The child learned that while the world could sometimes be uncertain, there were people who would protect her and listen to her. She learned that speaking up was safe and that her feelings mattered. He learned that vigilance, patience, empathy were as important as love. They also began creating joyful memories to replace the fearful ones. Weekend trips, picnics, art projects, and shared hobbies became part of their lives. Laughter returned, bright and unrestrained, as the child discovered the safety and warmth of her father's care. Each happy moment was a reminder of the progress they had made together. Over time, the father realized that their bond had strengthened more than he could have imagined. The experience had tested them both, but it had also revealed their resilience and capacity for love. The child felt secure, valued, and empowered. While he felt renewed purpose and a deep sense of fulfillment in protecting and nurturing her, he reflected often on the lessons.
I learned the importance.
The importance of trusting instincts, observing carefully, listening attentively, and acting decisively when safety is at stake. He understood that vigilance and care must be constant, but the rewards his daughter's trust, safety, happiness were priceless. They continued to build a life filled with love, trust, and support. Their home became a sanctuary, a place where the child could grow, learn, and explore with confidence. Together, they created a future grounded in security and joy. Leaving the shadows of the past behind, the father knew that challenges might still arise, but he also knew that their bond, tested and strengthened through hardship, was unbreakable. Together, they could face any obstacle, support each other, and continue growing. Every day, he remained committed to his promise to protect, guide, and love his daughter above all else, ensuring that she felt safe, cherished, and empowered to live her life fully and confidently.